role does AI have to play in our lives? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the Northwoods, talking about topics to make our lives better, one small step at a time. I've been thinking and actually using AI quite a bit, and not in a flashy way, not in a way that a lot of people use AI. I'm going to have it write my podcast, and I'm going to have it, I'm not going to do any of that. I write my podcast, I read my podcast, I think of the topics. The idea is using AI in a much more quiet and personal way. I can see it on YouTube all the time. I watched a podcast. I mean, I didn't because I turned it off. You could tell it was written by AI because AI has a certain way of phrasing words. And as soon as you find out what those are, you will see AI all over the place. So this video was written by AI. It was voice recorded by AI, and I'm not interested. I just am not interested in that. I'm there to watch people talk about things in a personal way. Maybe you are too. A lot of people are uneasy about AI, and a lot of times we can't even explain why. Some people are all in, some people are running their entire content media as AI. And actually going too far and taking medications and things or stopping medications because AI tells them what to do. They want it to do everything for them. They want it to write, plan, decide, sound like them, have their voice. And other people, like I said, just have no urge to do anything with it. My brother's in that camp. It feels fake to them or dishonest or it's hurting other people because you're never going to hire an artist or hire a this or that. And so now there's an artist who's out of work because no one's hiring them to create podcast art anymore. The honest truth was I was never going to hire someone to create podcast art for me or to write my podcast or, I don't know, whatever else it is they're doing because I don't have any money to do that, right? This podcast is just about me. I don't have a team. And so, I think there's, somebody said I was never going to have podcast art done by an artist. It was either going to be terrible and done by me or something I can make that's a little bit better. And so that's why I said there's this battle going on. And we're not even going to talk about today about, this idea about what is it going to do with jobs. I had a conversation, with someone the other day at work about that. There's a company that does the help desk ticket that we use at my job. And they put out an ad at the Super Bowl last year saying, hey, you know what? You know who doesn't need benefits and vacation time and calls in sick? Our brand new help desk AI. Well, the truth of the matter is, I don't know about you, but if I need help and I needed some help with something that was involving my podcast, and the AI was completely, that they give you initially was completely wrong, and all you do is try to figure out how to get around it. It took the person under 2 seconds to fix what issue I was having. AI just can't do that, and so instead, like I said, let's come up with an idea of how can we use AI and still feel like ourselves, not feeling like we stole something or that our ideas are being stolen, not outsourcing our ideas, but having a digital assistant and not being fake, but instead being authentic. And so I'm going to call this the Jill method of AI. And, a lot of people, when they feel discomfort about AI, like I said, we don't tend to have words about it. We just feel uncomfortable with it. And the thing I keep noticing is when people say they're uncomfortable with AI, usually they're not trying to say, I don't like technology, I'm afraid of the future. What they mean something more, I guess, is I don't want to either steal jobs from someone else, get a bunch of fake information, or to pretend to be someone I'm not. And what my goal in all of this and using AI, I'm just me, right? I am just me. I don't have a staff. And so it allows me to get many things done I couldn't do without being able to afford a staff, which was going to be never. So anyway, like I said, the discomfort is important. It's a signal. And it's easy for those of us, me and technology, to just bulldoze over it. I'll just use it. And it's not been a problem for me. I have gotten into AI since the very beginning, and I sort of found my place for it in my life. And It reminds me, back in the internet days when the internet first kind of came out, I was one of the first people on the internet. I was playing, it was funny. This internet company was $5 an hour to be on the internet, $5 an hour. And so what I would do is if you had a subscription, which cost $10 a month, you got 5 free hours. So what I would do is I would play these trivia games on the internet that they hosted, and I would win more hours. So by the time I was done with my 5 hours, I had about 20 hours playing trivia and various games. And so I was sort of gambling for hours on the internet. Oh, it's going to destroy jobs. You're right. There are some jobs that, because of computers and because of the internet, gone. They're gone. But it also created a million more other jobs. And, now looking back at it, what if we say like the internet was more available to regular people 35, 40 years ago, we have a lot more jobs because of the internet. I think that's the direction AI is going to be. Is it going to kill some jobs? It will. But I think it's going to find us new ways of being creative and using those tools to become even better than we were before. And if you think about it, if we ask someone for help, it's still our work, right? And if we came about something, some things are very easy for me, right? There's things I'm good at and there's things I'm not good at. So are the things that I'm good at, does that make me shallow or does it make that work worse? And the other problem too is that we also think of like, if you didn't struggle mightily for whatever it is that you have, somehow you've cheated, and it's just never been true. It wasn't true before the internet. It isn't true when the internet came out. And it isn't true now with AI. AI in the end, I joked with a friend of mine who felt uncomfortable with it initially. She said, she wasn't comfortable with it all. She was like, I'm not letting a robot in my life, kind of thing. And I said, AI was always there. We just didn't recognize it. When you buy a book on Amazon and it says, hey, you might also like this other book, or you go to Netflix and you watch a show and it says, well, maybe you'll like this other show too. That's been around for a really long time, and that was AI to an extent. It just wasn't as as it is right now. It's not as it's intelligent now, but it wasn't back then. But I mean, it still was the same kind of thing. It is using search engines in a smarter way, and the same thing too. That if I go and look at my Bible study and I used a commentary, am I cheating? If I had a lesson and say, well, it's not mine because I wrote it on a computer in Word. It's still the same thing. And if you say that, some kind of insight isn't, came about because someone asked you a really good question, it's still your insight. So again, if you think about tools don't steal your authorship from you. Abdicating your thinking does. There is a difference between the two. So think of it as, instead of going the direction of AI replacing work, think of AI as a collaborator, or like I said, I always think of it as a digital assistant. And it is an assistant that I've never been able to afford. So instead of saying something like to AI, which a lot of people do, write this for me, say something that I would say, make this content in my voice. And that makes people feel really uncomfortable. Instead of having a tool that you may ask AI and say, help me clarify this idea. Show me where there could be misunderstanding in what I'm saying. Or turn this concept into a visual chart. Challenge me. Challenge me and see if this holds up. I created a kind of funny thing that I can do in my car. And I call it, it was a little set of code called Interview Me. And the idea is that I would talk about a particular topic and I would pretend that this was a radio show. And I asked the AI to pretend that there were 10 callers into this radio show. Callers, right? Back in the old-fashioned days. 5 of them were curious and wanted to know more about what it is I did. And 5 of them were against what I was saying and were challenging me on that. And so when I'm driving in the car, I can talk about, maybe a podcast like this. And then it would give these questions to me, and it would help me think out my own thoughts a little bit better. And then when I was done in the car, I could have it write it up as a summary of notes, and then I would use that to write a podcast episode. To me, it was about driving more information out of me, clarifying my ideas, telling me where I'm being confusing. Because, like I do a Bible podcast, right? There's a lot of places where people get upset and they get very confused. How can I say this better so people understand it better? And then if you're using it like that, that feels like an honest way to use AI. It's more like thinking out loud with a very fast, patient partner. I have a best friend, Em, and I can tell you that she is as patient with me as ever. But the problem is that I can't go on forever with her. She has things she wants to talk about. I can't have her read everything I've ever written. When I first started doing this podcast, she would go through and analyze everything I said to make sure it was clear. She does not have that kind of time to be my unpaid assistant. Now I have an unpaid assistant who can help make sure what I write makes sense, sounds good to other people. In fact, it's funny because it said the other day, this is a very long-winded way of saying it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. I can be a very long-winded person in saying something. So it helps me be a little bit more concise. That's the thing I'm finding with it. So let me give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I did a podcast about Orion. It's a winter constellation in the northern United States. And first, thing is that I wanted to understand each of the stars' names, what the stars were about, and I looked in books and I found those pieces of information. When I started describing it, I was kind of tripping over my own tongue a little bit. So I wrote down what I wanted to say and I helped it sort of reshape it into a little bit better format. Oh, okay, that does sound better. Then I had it make graphics. So initially, when I had it make a graphic, because I could pay for a constellation graphic, and I looked at I have a couple of services out there for graphics, and none of them were of Orion, even though I typed in, that's the constellation I wanted. Instead, I was able to get it to produce a constellation of Orion, of what it looked like in the night sky. Then I had it clarify it, put in labels so that all the stars were named. And then I had to create another graphic for me so that it could understand why it is more visible in the wintertime and less visible in the summertime. And so when we were hashing this out with the AI, I was telling it, look, the sun, if you put it in this position, is going to wash out those constellations. And so the AI then was be able to correct that model, made a better graphic so that the image actually matched what I was trying to say. And so then I had a really good image I could put up on the screen to help people understand why Orion is a winter constellation. AI didn't tell me to do that. I told it to do that. It helped me test my idea, visualize it, and then gave me a very nice graphic so I could show other people. This is my work. And I guess I would encourage you that AI is a fantastic tool. It is using the knowledge that we have out there to help us to become better at what we're doing and help us also to do a little bit of work faster. One thing I had to do at work is that I had a board member who had a number of meetings and was considering letting one of the board members of this group go, and asked me the question, how many times did this board member, one, attend the meeting, two, say anything? And that would have taken me a long time reading through the transcripts to figure that out. Instead, I had AI look at the notes, and it said, this person attended these meetings, and on those meetings they attended, they said something in two of those meetings. And we were able to quickly see something that would have taken me a long time. We could see something much more clearly. Same thing with when you're looking at stats or anything else. I talked about how I was able to figure out what was spiking my blood sugar when I was having glucose problems. I did it by hand. AI could have done it in seconds instead of it took me hours to do. So anyway, there's the idea. So here's my rules for using AI. If I can't explain it with AI, I don't publish it. I don't have it drive information that I didn't give it or that I didn't know ahead of time. Sometimes it will bring up a word and I'll say, oh, no, that's interesting. I never heard that word again. I stop what I'm doing with AI. I go research that word in reliable sources that I have. Once I understand what it actually meant, then I can start going back. Okay, now let's talk about that word. I'll give you an example that I'm coming off of a GLP-1. I'm starting to wean myself down off the drug. And it said something to this extent of you have to understand the role of glycogen in your system as you're reducing your GLP-1 dose. Wait, what's glycogen? I don't know what that is. Okay, so I went to another AI and said, "Is this true?" So I used another AI to compare that one with that video. Then I went back and said, "Okay, that was right." Then I went and researched a bunch of other resources, medical resources about glycogen and the role of the liver and what happens in GLP-1 with glycogen. So then I understood it, and then I felt I could use it and then talk about it. The other part of it too is rule 2. Can AI improve my work? It can, but it doesn't decide what I think. It doesn't decide what I say. I just use it like, how can I say this better? I came up with a sticky point, in the Bible. I have a Bible podcast too. And I was trying to get out what it is I was trying to say, and it just was not coming out well. I'd say it this way and I'd say it that way. So I could ask AI, look, I'm trying to explain this. This is the words I've said. Is there a better way that I could say that? And it gave me some suggestions of how I could better say what it was I was trying to say. It pointed out a gap in what I was saying, essentially, that I was missing a key context of it. It also gave me a few options, and then it, gave me some good ideas to think about it. Maybe, Jill, you're confused about what you think about it, and so it helped me go back and dig down deeper into my own thoughts. The idea is that it's always my belief. Everything I say is my belief, my interpretation, and my judgment. That always stays with me, but it can give me a little bit of context. And the rule 3 is that if I start to feel like I'm using AI as a mask instead of a mirror, I don't use it. So again, if I started feeling like I'm not prepared for this podcast, AI just write this podcast for me. The idea is that a mask hides who I am. It doesn't show me. And it's important for me to be me. So I want it to be me. And so I'm never going to go to this place where it is being me. I am always going to be me. And it feels like it's covering for me at that point. And that's not the point. That crosses a line with me. The other part of it too is that I'm a visual learner. I always have been. And sometimes if I'm like Orion, looking at the way the constellation, I wanted to see why Orion is a winter constellation. It helped me to see it through a graphic. So if I don't want to, if I want to understand what I'm talking about, or if I want to understand, the words that are being said, I'll tell you that something confusing just happened at work. I had no idea what it was about. So I asked AI, what is it when someone says this in a legal document? What does that mean? And so it explained it to me. So it gave me some good ideas for something I just couldn't make sense out of, right? So it can help you with that as well. But it's a way AI can be to help you be more honest, to prevent you from hiding against vague language or saying something that would be completely unclear. I'll tell you the one thing is AI is always telling me I talk too much. So yeah. Okay, I was just looking at the time, right? So too much, right? So for helping me diagram, reduce, the things that I'm saying, expose some of my thinking or expose where I may be thinking about things weakly, in a weak manner, that's important. And the reason is that I think that the deeper, I get conversations to go, it's about helping me not so much with productivity, but it helping me with integrity of my thought. And so it helps me understand a little bit better about what I believe, what I still know, things that I'm still working out. And so I'll be honest, like I'm still trying to work my way through this, hang in there with me. So these tools really serve us as a process, not to replace our own thinking, but to help augment it. And as soon as it looks like it's replacing and not augmenting, that's where I'm not going to go that direction. We are supposed to think more. And if we find it helps us to stop thinking, now we are going the wrong direction. We are instead trying to think faster and think more clearly and think of more issues. Because, I'm Jill, right? I'm sitting here in this room and I agree with what I agree with. It's great to have something that challenges my thinking and says, what about this? Other people disagree with you and they think this. Oh, I didn't think about that. So I think that if you're sitting there getting into this fight, I'm not going to use AI. Or if you're worried you're going to use it wrong, you don't have to, first of all, use AI, but it is a way that helps you become better. You can use it as a tool to make you better. I have a friend of mine who's trying to start her career in art, and she started going through some various art interviews. You can use AI, interview me, practice with me. Did what I just say sound clunky to you? Did this response to your question, did that sound, it helps hone you a little bit more because there's ways of saying things that are official. I'm not a very officially talking person. And so you can say what things, help kind of hone that message. It's really there to try to get us to be better, to go through our practices and our own practical ways and do so even better. I'm going to talk in a few weeks about how I'm using it to help me with this diet and weight loss issue. There are just so many moments. And like I said, you can be one of those people who say, oh, AI, I can let it just take over my life. Or AI, I don't even intend to use it at all. But why not be somewhere in the middle where it's helping us? It's acting as that assistant. It is organizing our thoughts. I'll be honest with you. When I write podcasts, and maybe you've even seen this in the process of my podcast, is that maybe it's not organized in the strongest way. That my words are good, my thoughts are good, but it could be more concise. That's what it tells me all the time, and be organized in a more flowing way. That's what AI is helping me do. It's just helping me become sort of a better version of myself. And, I think that if you panic about it, it's not going to go away, just like the internet didn't go away. It's about, like I said, having sort of this digital tool to help you clarify your own thoughts better. It really depends on how you use it. And I suggest using it in a way that clarifies your thoughts, makes your thoughts stronger. If you have a hard conversation coming up with someone, I know someone who has been going through some issues in the family. How can I say this better? How can I say this in a way that's not going to be offensive towards that other person? And I'm sure she's using it on me too. But making it as that sort of third party person. I use it for all sorts of things. And in the end, I used it to rearrange this room. I didn't like the background. If you looked at my early videos, I did not like the background I had for this. And so I actually had AI give me several different views of what this room could look like if I changed the order of my furniture and what it could look like behind me. Now I'm much happier than I used to be about that. I found a hairstyle I liked on it. I said, hey, put this hair on me. Oh, I like that too. So now I'm growing out my hair. You can use it for silly things. You can use it for very serious things. And you can use it to just make your presentation of yourself better. There's a way of writing things for work, and there's a way of writing things for legal purposes, and there's a way of writing things when you have a sensitive family situation. How can I say this in a better way? And so I hope that you do give AI a chance in all of this. Like I said, it's not going to be something that goes away. It's not going to be something that people are so mad about that, we're just not going to have it anymore. It is going to continue to be a part of our lives. And either it can go and help you do more, help you be better, and help you, even become stronger in certain areas, teach you something. You can learn an entire language, a foreign language or a concept or something like that from AI. And so you should let it work for you. Again, AI doesn't do my work for me, but it helps me be more clear. It helps me say things in a better way. It helps clarify me again when I am confused about what I'm going to say or unsure about what kind of negative reaction I might get. I hope you give it a shot. If you're using AI, put a comment right here in the chat channel. You can email me at jillstartwithsmallsteps.com. Again, a big part of my life, not just podcasting, but other parts of it as well. And I hope that you give it a shot. The more you get into AI, the more you'll start to feel out how it can really impact your life and be that kind of a guide, not to guide your thinking, but to help you just be better about everything that you're doing. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have a good day.